TikToks, but I was essentially losing my mind a bit. Still having to work. My husband was a key worker, so he was out all the time, left me on my own. Started putting on weight, started drinking wine at very early hours, because everybody was doing it.
Yeah, it was a classy thing to do during pandemic. Yeah.
It was like you had to be in the club. But no, for me, it turned into an actual very dark time, because 6 months before I had lost 2 of my brothers 8 weeks apart. One from liver cancer, and then one from mental illness and alcohol. They were twins. They were only 38. So when the pandemic hit and homeschooling and all of that, I essentially was just reaching what they call the peak of grief when it comes to that 6 months, and you're like, what actually has happened in the last 6 months? It was very much, everything was just coming to a head for me. And my mental health was suffering, and I had just lost, I think, that drive in my corporate life. I started to kind of question everything I was doing. I was like, why have I been working 60 hours a week for the last 10 years? What is it about wanting to kind of progress in my career? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I essentially was just doing everything I could to have the best job and the best car and live in a lovely house. And when the boys died and then the pandemic hit, it was like, what have I been doing all this for?
And grief was really hard in the pandemic as well, because
really
when you got
hard.
to the point,
You
you couldn't really pull together.
distract yourself. You couldn't get out there. You couldn't go to the gym. You couldn't go out and see. You couldn't do anything. You were left alone at home with your thoughts. And it really was just a major time of reflection for me. But I had known that in terms of dealing with my mental health, I had been to CBT, I've been to counselling previously. I've suffered with anxiety and depression for about 7 years now. And the one thing that counselling teaches you, it's to kind of look at what is going on in your life and what's getting you down, what's leaving you anxious, what's leaving you on edge, and see if you can control it. If you can't control it, put it aside. There's nothing you can do about it. So at the time for me, it was, again, everybody was doing it because we had nothing else to do, was social media. So I was on Instagram, I was on Facebook, I was on Twitter, fake news, people fighting over toilet rolls, people on Instagram.
Do you remember the toilet roll fights?
Why
the
was
pasta
everybody,
fights?
I know, fighting over toilet rolls.
People running past with big piles of rice in their hands.
Madness.
Good times.
Good times. Remember the good days. So it was that, and then on Instagram it was people making banana bread and doing reward charts for the Waynes and homeschooling. I was like, my Waynes are going back to school, stupider. And there's people doing reward charts for their Waynes.
Way down by banana bread as they try and get in.
No, and then Joe waxing his PE with Joe was no. Big gorgeous fist just kept popping up everywhere. PE with Joe. I was like, no, I don't want to do PE, Joe. My Waynes don't want to do PE, Joe. So it was a lot of that for me.
They knighted him, didn't they?
They what?
I think, or they gave him something.
Did they?
An OBE for that.
I had to give him something at the time. It would have been a knighthood. God love him. I know he had the right idea, but it was just something for me when I was in that low, kind of self-loathing, just...
I can't speak for all of us. I don't think many of us did the Joe Wicks workouts. Did
Did
anyone have a go at it?
You did it once, didn't you? You did it once
You
because
did it
everybody's
once.
doing it. Aye. Because that was pushed on us then as something that we needed to be doing at the time.
Lockdown,
Get your kids out, get fit and healthy. Don't let the pandemic get you down. Maybe a bottle of wine, share size bar, cabinet. All right, Joe. But it really just was for me. Again, it was prioritising and trying to see what I could control, and I found that social media was leaving me on edge more than anything because I was insecure and I was doing that thing that everybody does. They compare their lives and themselves physically and mentally to those that are on Instagram, to people's highlights. And we know, deep down, we know it's not real. But at the time, I didn't have the strength to tell myself that it wasn't real. So I was like, I'm going to delete social media. I'm going to delete it. So I did. I deleted everything. And then I was bored.
That's the problem.
I was like, I have to talk to my husband now. Have to talk to me wings? No, I'm only joking. I was bored because we all love that kind of procrastination, sitting
you need
scrolling.
it, in a way. It's like, I mean, it is. You're right, though. You're absolutely right, because you see people's highlights. You see what's wonderful about their life. They're not showing you the terrible time that they're sitting in the corner depressed with a thing of Toblerone or something.
Exactly,
You're not getting that.
I couldn't find that on social media. I couldn't find anybody that I could relate to. I couldn't find anybody that was openly admitting that they were falling apart, homeschooling, or that they were putting on weight and just losing the complete run of themselves, or that they were anxious, or that they were depressed. I couldn't find that. All I could see.
I don't want to keep calm and carry on.
Exactly. I want to know that other people are losing their shit as well.
Yeah.
I want to feel normal, and I wasn't getting that from social media. So that's why I deleted it. But as I said, I was bored because social media can be a brilliant place where you can be entertained, you can be educated, you can learn things, you can communicate with people. So my daughter at the time, she was on TikTok, and she showed me one video, and it was hilarious. And she was like, "You should download it." God love her, she regrets that day now ever telling me to download TikTok. So I did, and I spent a couple of hours on it, and I laughed like I hadn't laughed in a long, long time. I mean, tears running down my face. And you know those people I couldn't find on Instagram and Facebook? I found them on TikTok. They were my age. They were falling apart. They were losing their minds. They felt like they were failures as parents, and every kind of insecurity that we have, people were talking about it, but they were laughing about it. And that to me was a form of resilience during the pandemic. It's very much a sense of, if we don't laugh, we'll cry. And I was like, this is it. I have found a social media app for me that makes me feel normal. And that's what social media should be. But again, that comes with a lot of strength. But fast forward kind of 6 months later, I enjoyed TikTok so much that I started thinking that I could do it too. So I started doing it. But I started doing the voiceovers. The premise of TikTok very much in the early days was just using other people's sounds.
Yeah, you take some audio and you
doing a
lip-sync to
voiceover.
it
You lip sync.
yeah.
My first few videos are so bad. They're still on my account.
What was the first video you did?
I think it was a Derry girl sound. It was a Derry girl sound, and I dressed up as Michelle in my daughter's bedroom. Now, if this doesn't scream pandemic, losing your mind, I don't know what
Everything
does.
was excusable during the pandemic,
Everything.
so this is a safe space here.
It didn't feel like it was real life. Everybody was doing what they could to survive. But as we started to get out of the pandemic then, it was very... Now, I was still working at the time as Chief Operations Officer, and fair play to my bosses. They didn't. They could have come to me and said, "Right, Serena, knock it in the head now. You're running around TikTok with your belly hanging out, drinking wine through your eyeball. What are you at?" But they didn't, in fairness to them. But I still felt like I was doing a disservice to them as my employers and to myself professionally in that space. Because I was on TikTok and I was kind of talking about all my deepest, darkest fears and insecurities and laughing about it. There's nothing about that screams professional. But at the end of the day, it was my place to kind of go, I actually feel happier in this world. I feel creative. I feel like people like me for me. I wasn't putting up filtered pictures. I wasn't putting up a picture of my new car or £200 handbag. I was literally there, bearing it all, but putting a humorous twist on it. And people were relating to it and enjoying it and saying that they'd loved the fact that they had something to laugh about and thanking me for that. Which in turn I felt like I had to thank people because they were making me feel normal.
Was it instant, that happiness with it, from the first video? Did you think, this is for me, I want to do this?
No, the first few videos were just a bit of crack that I enjoyed, as you say, but it was in that time that we were allowed to kind of lose our minds publicly. It was when I started doing my own skits then. I really felt that I had found something that I should have been doing all my life. And I loved my career. I loved being in the corporate world, but looking back now compared to what I'm doing now, it's a completely different level of love. It's been able to actually touch people and make people smile and laugh and feel normal. And nothing in terms of career that I've done has even come close to that. In terms of it being rewarding. It's great, progressing in your career and getting a salary increase and so on. That's fine. But one comment or message from somebody saying that I felt like crap all morning and you've just made me smile does something to me. It's the reason why I felt like I wanted to do it. And also that I felt like I was good at it.
So it makes you happy and other people
exactly.
happy. It's almost win-win.
But then there was the situation of going into my husband and saying, I'm leaving my job. Don't need a company car. We're okay. We're grand. I'm going to become a TikToker.
When did you make that call? Because like presumably you sort of gain followers. You see more and more traction.
Yeah.
Was there a point where you looked at that and thought, I can make something off this. This can be me.
It got to it was very early days, it got to about 100, 200,000 on TikTok. And I thought, well, Instagram and Facebook was something that I deleted because I couldn't find this content on there. So why not cross-populate my videos onto Instagram and TikTok, which I've been doing from the start. But then they started growing quite quickly as well. And I was like, there is an appetite for this. Again, come back to it being rewarding. Unfortunately, contrary to popular belief, content creators don't make much money unless you want to sell your soul to brand deals. And that wasn't for me. So again, it was that conflicting. It was that situation of, I need to pay my mortgage. You know, I need to have a job. I need to work. But I really, really love this thing that I've been trying out during the pandemic. But as a parent, somebody with a family and a mortgage, you're like, this is just a pipe dream. Come on, let that go. But one thing that kept me going to this side was losing my brothers before the pandemic. They were 38. It's like, do you know what? Life's too short. Give it a go. The worst comes to it, you can go back and get another job. Nobody's taking away your qualifications or your experience. You can go back and you can do it. So a safety net for me at the time as well was, okay, I've been in digital marketing. I have my career. I have references. I haven't done any kind of freelancing for companies or consultancy, but surely the growth of Mammy Banter and what I've done with her, it practices what I preach. So I set up a digital marketing agency called Catchyco, teaching people and companies and organisations how to use TikTok because it was so new.
Yeah.
And I had Mammy Banter there as a case study. So that was my safety net in terms of income. And once I had established that I was going to set that up, I left my job. People think I left my job just to go and make TikToks. That wouldn't have been viable, you know, again, as a parent.
It's a tough sell to your husband as well.
It really, really would. And fair play to him. He stood by me and believed in me and thought I could do it. And it was really just that reassurance that was, if it doesn't work out, I'll go back and get a job. As a parent, you'll work anywhere to provide for your family. You know, I would have worked anywhere if it didn't work out. And still to this day, if this all ends tomorrow, I'll do the same thing. But at least I got to do it for a while. But it was that perspective from losing my brothers and suffering with anxiety and depression and going through dark times. That builds a real resilience in you that allows you to see perspective more clearly. And people kind of confuse that sometimes, I think, with confidence. People are like, you're so confident. It's not confident. It's, I just don't care. If people don't like me, that's okay. But there are people that do like me, so I'll do it for them. It's not about coming into the room and everybody in the room liking you. It's about liking yourself enough. And that was the personal transition that I went through on this journey since the pandemic. It's crazy.
And it's not even that long a time when you think about it. It's 2 years and a bit?
2 years,
yeah.
Aye.
I'll not fall into the trap of asking you the old cliche question of where you get your ideas from. But talk me through content creation. Does it all come from, do you have an experience, say, in a supermarket and think, right, that's a video?
Yes and no. It does happen. A lot of my skits at the start were relatable things that happen in day-to-day life, and it allowed me to kind of open my eyes more and turn that into situational comedy, because a lot of the skits and the themes of TikTok is relatability. So it's about thinking, as a marketer then, by trade, I would think about stuff that everybody goes through. And that helps. That's easy content. That's a subject. So that's grand. But then I felt like I wanted to take it further and start adding some fiction to make it funnier, and then add some characters, and then start adding some arcs. And that's how it's gone from just relatable skits, things that happen all the time, to, oh my God, like there's thousands of people following the journey of Jimmy and Ginny. They're 2 6-year-olds who've met in the park and fell in love, and people are like, who needs Romeo and Juliet, which is crazy. But that hook, the hook, again, it's using my kind of marketer mind at the start to get that hook, to get people and they feel relatable, to know that they're not alone, to know that the stuff that makes you want to tear your hair out, being a parent and being a woman, happens to us all. And that has allowed me then to open it up and add some fiction, which has been brilliant.
You must work really hard as well, because there is that trap too of thinking of creatives, it all comes so easily, but it sounds like hard graft as well.
There's loads of planning. Like I script write my skits out. It sounds silly. You have to kind of write them out, and I need to be 2 or 3 skits ahead if it's going to be a series, if there's going to be a kind of arc to it. It is definitely something. People probably look and go, you sit in the house with your phone making TikToks. It must be so easy. It's not. It's genuinely not.
And then, of course, you do all voices, all performances.
Yes.
It's like you're like a modern day Eddie Murphy, basically.
Oh my God! That is amazing. That's so class.
I mean, I just, you see, you look at the clumps, he's playing everybody, you're playing everyone. Like, Eddie couldn't do a film without being everyone in it.
I never wanted to have my kids in my skits. That was the reason.
Oh, amazing.
It would have been easier, like. But I wanted to protect their privacy in the sense of they didn't choose to do TikToks. My 13-year-old would have stabbed me in the eye with a fork if I'd asked her to be in a TikTok. And it just wasn't manageable, so it was easier to play all the parts myself.
What do they make of them?
My teenager kind of just takes it in her stride. At the start, she was like, oh my God, no, this is not happening. And then it came to the stage where it grew so quickly, and I got the opportunity with HarperCollins. She's amazing. Like, I think back and I imagine my mother, me at 13, being on social media. Our equivalent was what, MySpace, Bebo. I could imagine my mommy being on social media, doing videos and laughing, and oh my God, the things that I do. Like, so she is a trooper. Fair play to her. She's grand. She pulls me on a few things, like, because there's times like I steal her clothes to play the teenage character, and she cracks up. I can never wear that again because she wore it in a TikTok. So I have to go and buy her another top. My 6-year-old doesn't really understand. He just he loves YouTube. YouTube's his thing, and Roblox and Minecraft. So he's not in that world, he's not in that space, and he doesn't really get it. And again, he just thinks it's Mommy's work.
Mommy's work then eventually spread. It's now in literary form. It is Book Week, so I suppose we better discuss books.
We may as well talk about Book Week.
Park social media for a bit. We'll talk about books. Yeah. Are you much of a reader yourself?
I am, but I fell out of love with it for so long, again, being in the corporate world and just not having time. And then I moved more into audiobooks in terms of going on a trip with work and being able to throw on an audiobook in the car, or you're doing a bit of cleaning and throwing on an audiobook. For me, practically, it's been better time-wise. So when I got the opportunity to do this, it was, again, for me personally, a time to go back and start reading books and falling in love with actual tangible books again, and to come out of that audiobook space, which has been amazing. But never ever thought I'd write a book.
So what books would you read? Because this is Libraries NI World Cup, I suppose, when you get the Book Week. This is their time to shine. So what would you usually read? What
I've been reading to date is a lot of self-help books, if that sounds kind of weird. Like, I don't read comedy books. I read a lot of self-help. Like, at the minute, I'm reading Jordan Peterson. Because for me, I find that I can escape more in TV. But in terms of books and sitting down and being off my phone, I want to read something that's going to help me in terms of perspective, mindset. So not so much fiction.
No, you see, I found this trap of rereading things and set myself a goal at the start of the year.
Right, okay.
Trying to read something new every month, and I've sort of stuck to it for now.
And have you done it?
I have for now. Well, I've hit 14, so I've reached enough for the year. But I got married this year. And then,
congratulations.
Thank you very much. And we're having a baby this year.
Oh,
don't do the maths of when we get.
Okay.
And my wife is sitting in the front as well, just to make sure someone would definitely come. And yeah, we.
He's dead later.
Yeah, we're going home in separate cars. And then we did sort of things around the house as well. And then I lost my father this year as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But no, I think that's it's okay. It's interesting what you're saying about grief, that 6-month period, because it was a little more than 6 months, you know, and you get.
So how long ago was it you lost your dad?
March 26th. So it was a week after I got married. He passed away.
Oh my God.
It was lung cancer. It was expected, you know. But,
right. Okay.
You know, so it was a very interesting sort of period in our life but books I actually found were really, really useful because
to escape?
Yeah, because I read fiction, which is interesting. I used that to sort of try and take me away from except one I read about a ship that was stuck in the Antarctic, but that was
that took you away.
That took its own toll. So tell me,
you lost yourself in fiction.
Yeah,
in terms of your grief period.
Yeah, basically,
escapism,
because there's a strange sort of what do you do now? You know, with that 6-month period. It's like, what?
Stop the mind wandering.
Now what? You know? And then you went and wrote a book, so you've trumped me here. You did. So you went.
Hey, still got time. It's only October.
Yeah, a couple more months. We'll start off with the one that's out because it is sitting here. You unfortunately forgot
I forgot my new book.
Yeah, we'll get a screenshot and pass it around to everybody so you can all have a look at what it looks like.
I'm throwing it down everybody's throats on social media anyway, so they're okay.
So, Secret Life of an Uncool Mum. So this is your first book. This came out earlier this year?
This came out in March this year.
So, well, you call that maybe a 2-year anniversary of your pandemic work, March 2022.
Yes, exactly.
When did you decide that you might do this? You know, I've done the social media thing. I've got the TikTok thing. I've cross-posted. I've got my marketing in place. Let's have a crack at a book. Let's do a book. Talk me through that process.
It was when HarperCollins contacted me about 6 months before. And they were like, would you like to write a book? I was like, I can't write a book. And they were like, you're already writing. You don't realise it. You're already writing. I was hit immediately with imposter syndrome. I was like, genuinely, I cannot write a book. That is not something I could do. And they genuinely sat me down and they were like, right, okay, let's do a few exercises. We want you to write 600 words on what the synopsis would be for your book if you were to write it. So at the time, I'm still creating content, but I'm starting to build in these characters and adding some fiction to the skits. And I'm like, why not expand the characters that I've been introducing and that people are familiar with, and push that into the novel and build an arc around it, which is what we'd done. So I'd done the synopsis, which at the time, very earlier on, I was very, very ignorant in what was required for me to write a book. I genuinely was like, so I'll just brain dump everything onto a page, not much structure, bar paragraphs, everything up and down. They were like, no, Serena, it needs an arc. It needs pacing. We need to relax here. You need to think about the reader. You're also writing in your Derry accent. This is something that might not kind of be transferable into other markets. So I was lucky enough, they brought Claire Allen on board, who is an incredible crime writer. I'm sure everybody's heard from her, another amazing Derry author, who also writes in Derry voice and was there to mentor me and help me throughout the entire process. It was really, really nerve-wracking, again, at the start, and it was hard. It was like going back to school and say I wrote a chapter, sent it to them, it comes back and it's red-penned.
There's a panic about taking it to show somebody. It's like a bad report card.
It's that, and it's very much you have to build thick skin in the way of having editors pass back. Now, my editor is Martha Ashby. She's one of the leading editors in HarperCollins in the UK. So again, this was a huge, like, she's reading my work and like, you know, tell me what I need to do here and there. But it wasn't just red penning. It was like, no, say more about what you see, what you're feeling. The reader needs to really, really kind of be there and be able to visualize it. So in terms of upskilling me in the way I used to write and to where I was in the middle of it, was incredible in terms of learning process. Thick skin, no kind of ego. Yeah,
because I was going to say, so it's constructive criticism because I think I would struggle with that if you write a few words and send it off and they're like, actually, these aren't great. And you're thinking, well, no, hold on, I thought they were excellent.
That's the way it was. It was like that. It was like, but there's a process to writing a book, which if somebody hasn't written a book before, it's probably hard to kind of see that, but especially fiction. Now, I'm just doing like 1 minute to 3 minute skits. They're like, no, this, again, think about the arc, think about the pace. And it was tough at the start, but then it started to feel like a challenge to me. It was either, right, okay, feel sorry for yourself and realise that you have a lot of work to do in this book to get it where it needs to be, or learn, rise to the challenge and do it. Because this was the finished product.
How long did this take?
This took 10 weeks.
Got it. And I mean, how many rewrites, how many times would you write something? I mean, did what you
that
put
was,
in the first
That
place
was like 80 hours a week for 10 weeks. That was crazy. It was so intense. The second one was only 8 weeks. But I think that is the best way to do it. Just because you live and breathe the characters, the story. You start to kind of immerse yourself in it. And I notice whenever I've written the last 2 books, my content's got stronger because you're being more creative and you're more in tune. So again, everything I was learning and everything I was fleshing out within the books and their characters and giving them more depth, even in the second one, you'll start to see more characters coming out from that and vice versa on my skits. So in the second book, Granny makes an appearance, Pamela. I don't know if you have seen Granny, she's quite the character. But it was amazing to do that, to introduce a new character and give her a backstory and give her depth. So it's been crazy. It's been absolutely crazy.
Yeah, what does it mean for you to see, just looking at it, to see it here? It's your book, you wrote this is yours, and here it is, and you see it in shops around the city. Waterstones is a big display, of course, when it first came out.
Yeah.
It must be a rush when you see it.
It still doesn't feel real. I don't know how to explain it. And I don't know, again, if it's that imposter syndrome thing. And even when the second one arrived, which I didn't flip and bring with me, and it came through the post and I'm holding it in my hands. Now,
let's see if we can just get a little image off it. You carry on.
Blood, sweat and tears went into that book. The second book, again, 8 weeks. It was a shorter time frame. But mentally, it was tougher for me. And again, to see it finished, I should be like, oh my God, which I was. But I'm still like, I can't believe this. It doesn't feel real. Nothing in the last 2 years feels real.
Yeah,
and
if we could just...
Oh, look.
If I can just stay there for you.
There we go.
Who's going to play ball? There we go.
Can I say the title?
Yes, I think we can, can't we? We okay?
Well, I was on the radio at the weekend, I'll not say where, but they were like, we can't say the title. So I was like, it's the blank before Christmas. It's the shite before Christmas, in terms of the shite that we go through and everything happens in the run up to Christmas, and again, just keeping it Derry. But
and when's this out?
This is out on the 11th of November. So this came out in March, and the American version is out on the 1st of November in America and Canada. It's the exact same book, only it's called The Secret Life of an Uncool Mom.
Oh yeah, the mom, yeah. I got
Mom.
You. Will they get this? You don't have to maybe change the shite before Christmas for an American market.
Do you know what? It's not like Derry Girls has done so much for me in terms of making our colloquialisms and the words that we use and the way that we speak transferable, like global, transatlantic. So I think everybody gets shite. I love being able to say shite, the shite.
Was this one, I don't want to say easier, but was it easier to get over the imposter syndrome to write because you'd already done one? There was a bit of validation there already. So
much, and I had more fight in me in this one. Again, bearing in mind I'm dealing with publishers in London and an editor in London, and some of the things that are in the book, like, in this one, it was like, they'd say, no, we can't put that in the book. And I'd be like, okay, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full. Sir, that's fine. This one, I was like, we're putting it in. This is staying. I want this to stay. Really crazy stuff. And again, more Derryisms and more colloquialisms and more Northern Irish and Irish humour that I felt more confident to be able to say, I'd really like to keep this in. And they're like, right, okay, no worries. It's your book.
You mentioned Claire Allen. We have Seamus O'Reilly from this neck of the woods as well. He was here last year, I think, for Book Week, and then yourself. You mentioned Derry Girls as well. It's a bit of a gilded age for Derry at the minute in terms of culture.
We are pure class.
What do you think it is? Why is that? Is this something you guys have always known? I'm from Coleraine, not far from you, but I don't quite have. I work in here, and there is a uniqueness to this city. I think.
How would you describe it?
I think there's a fierce pride here in Derry off where they're from, of where they live. I think there really is. I think there's a civic pride, and I always make this point where, like, say for example, Greg's wouldn't succeed here because you love your traditional bakeries. You know, it's like it wouldn't last.
There's a lot of support local,
You shop local, you look after each other, you look after yourselves. That's the sense I get anyway, as a slight outsider.
It could be, you know, loads of people talk about it could be coming from the troubles and generational trauma and resilience that I talk about again, and that resilience that we used over the pandemic about if you don't laugh, you'll cry. It's finding the humour and the community in it. And we are a huge community here in Derry, and I think that is the one thing that shines through in anybody that we see being creative or going out there. People support you. Like the support I've got in the last 2 years has been unbelievable.
Like there's no jealousy. It's actually, this is a great thing.
It's actually just, fair play to you, go and do it. Like Lisa McGee didn't need to ask me to be in Derry Gears, but she did. She didn't need to do that. But she contacted me and asked me to be in it, you know, to give me that feature. And it's like...
It was episode 1 of series 3, wasn't it?
Yeah. Very briefly. Now, I would have dressed up as a tree in the background waving. I didn't care what I was going to be, but again, it was just, that was a very Derry thing to do. And even Jamie Lee O'Donnell, she was doing a documentary here about mental health and the troubles. And again, it's just that Derry people supporting Derry people, and to have Claire Allen, no better woman in terms of what I've learned from her, and to have that strength on my side as another Derry woman actually fighting my case and telling me how to kind of push things, working with English publishers that mightn't get our humour, was amazing, you know, to have that backup.
You mentioned so many Derry women as well. That's another thing I notice about this city. It's a very woman-supporting woman tradition.
We're the maiden city.
Yeah, you know, it goes all the way back to like the shirt factories and everything. There's a real celebration of women in the city.
There is, yeah. And again, it goes back to that resilience and what we've all gone through in the past and what we couldn't maybe achieve, what our mothers couldn't achieve, that we're trying to do now and to teach our daughters as well. So it goes back generationally, and it is kind of underpinned by our roots and what we've been through as a city.
It's nice as well to see some books that aren't necessarily about the troubles. That's the other thing we're seeing. We're seeing books now from right across Northern Ireland that aren't set through horrendously dark times, except maybe in the difficulty of parenthood here and there.
Exactly, and I pride myself in that, even in the comedy space, that I don't do comedy about the troubles. It's nice to just be from Derry and not have to do that as an in. I know it works for some comedians. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it's nice to be able to just come in with a broad topic of parenthood, being from Derry, and be able to kind of get in with that rather than going, I'm from Derry, talking about the troubles, talking about different sides. You know, it's been nice to be able to do that. What
was stand-up like for you? You did Edinburgh Fringe.
Yes.
That was through TikTok as well.
That was through TikTok. TikTok invited me over to the Fringe because they were the virtual partner. I only had a few weeks to prepare, so I was bricking it. I think professionally for me, I knew I didn't have enough time, but I knew that I could always wing it in terms of preparation. But it was amazing, and it's given me this kind of boost. I'm actually finalising dates at the minute for a UK tour.
Oh, brilliant.
Which is mad, I know.
Oh, so we can write that down as an exclusive.
Write that down in your notes.
UK tour, okay. Absolute Ride's a good name for the tour as well.
Oh my God, there you go. There you go.
So sorry, you can have that
I'm
one.
going to give you commission for that.
There you go. But doing stand-up as well. So that's because I sort of look at your career and it's like ticking boxes. You know, I've done TikTok successfully. Now I'm going to do books successfully, and now I'm doing stand-up successfully. Well,
they all align, and to me, I always want to progress. It's like going back to where I was in my corporate life. I always wanted to progress. I didn't want to sit still for too long. I always wanted to kind of better myself. That's just the way I am personally. And doing something that I love now, there's no difference. I still want to progress. And I want to earn money. I want to earn a living. Again, authors don't make much money. I don't know if people talk about it openly. You don't. That's the bottom line. You make enough. It's not to say I want to be out here with a flashy car. You know, I'm not about that. But in order for me to have a sustainable income, I need to kind of cover all my bases and not necessarily tick boxes, but go and try things and do them. So, as you say, I've done TikTok, but I feel like I haven't done it. I need to continue on and grow And that will open up for other things for me, because the more I do that, the more it opens up opportunities for me. So it depends what's going to be, there's going to be financial gain from the likes of the tour, but as well as that, it might open up other opportunities for me. I don't know if I'm going to get another book. The thing about being creative and being in this space is, at the end of the day, you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from. You don't have a salary. You don't have that security. So for me, again, it's always looking to see where am I going to make this a bit more stable for myself? How am I going to do that?
Do you have a favourite medium? I mean, do you do TikTok and think that's my favourite of these things? Or I preferred writing books, or the stand-up really sat with me, or maybe this is all feeds into the same thing, and it feels like work.
It all feeds in. It all goes back to making people laugh and making people smile and making them feel like they're not alone. But it's really opened up a kind of desire in what I want to do ultimately, and that's screenwrite. So all of this has been building up to little tasters.
That tweet go out that you'd worked on something. How much can you?
Well, I've done a pilot script. I've written a pilot script, and it's based on this.
Oh.
So there's some opportunity to kind of get the rights for this book out there for TV. And again, that's where I want to be ultimately. The more I work on those videos and go and do stand-up or do anything else, that's all going to help to close the gap and get into where I want to be, and that is screenwriting. I want to make TV. I want to make people laugh on a global level.
Do you want to be on which side of the camera? Like both sides? Do you want to get in there yourself?
Preferably behind. I wouldn't mind being in front, but no, I want to do from behind the camera. I want to screenwrite.
I see. So, I mean, and the thing is, I get the sense though that when you have an ambition, you will fire towards it. You know, you really will. Continue until you get it and throw everything at it.
Yeah, I think people are going to be sick of me, like genuinely.
Surely not.
Not just TikTok and cross-populating on Instagram and then Twitter and then Facebook, and then I'm popping up on stage and I'm presenting events. But I want to get there to see if I can do it. If I can't do it, again, it always goes back to what I said at the pandemic. I'll go back and work in any job if I can provide for my family. But I want to give it a go first to see if I can do it.
We talked a bit about mental health earlier throughout there, and you obviously have done a lot of this to tackle your mental health. You also have another thing you do at the minute now. You're an avid sea swimmer, aren't you? Isn't that correct? So my wife does this as well, sea swimming, and sometimes tries to lasso me into it, and usually to a lot of success. But see what happens in the winter. I don't understand. I can't bring myself to come near it.
It's tough. It is tough, but the benefits outweigh those few minutes of.
When did you start?
Cold. Last December.
So you started in the winter? I
started in the winter, and I think that was the best thing to do, because see, transitioning even now from the summer temperatures. I was in on Sunday, and we were like, oh my God, just walking in. But I had a dip in my mental health in December, and I'm on antidepressants for my anxiety. I have no shame in saying that. But I kind of rang the doctor, and I was like, I'm starting to feel things build up. You know, what can I do? Can I increase my medication? They were like, you're on the maximum, love. I'm like, right, okay. They were like, we can chop and change. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Let me go and see what I can look at that's holistic, that will help out. Because I had just got in that rut, as we do again in December. I wasn't eating well. I was working hard. I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't doing those things that help in terms of a blended approach for your mental health. Mine's is medication and doing something holistic, whether that be the gym or going outside. But I wasn't doing it. And I was at a very, very low stage, and I just needed to find something that would help, give me that kind of serotonin boost naturally. And then I found sea swimming and Wim Hof. This was just
the Iceman guy.
The Iceman in December, and I was like, I want to do this. It sounds absolutely bananas, but I want to do it. And I couldn't find a group. I found a couple of groups, but they were very exclusive, but I couldn't find anything online. So I was like, one woman, and this just shows you, out of the goodness of her heart, I put up a story on Instagram, and I was like, does anybody know anybody who's doing cold water swimming or cold water therapy locally? And this lady messaged me, and she says, I do it. Come and meet me at the beach tomorrow. I'll bring you the neoprene gloves and socks, and I'll take you through it. And she did. Now, this is a stranger. She took me into the water. She took me through my breathing. I was like, oh my God. Afterwards, like, I couldn't believe how at peace I felt. Slept well that night. I went straight back down the next day, and that was me hooked. So I started to do it for a few weeks, and I was kind of documenting my journey, and I started to be inundated with messages upon messages. I mean, thousands across all platforms of people saying, how do I do this? Where can I do this? I'm struggling a bit too. Is it really that good? And because I couldn't find that for me locally, and I knew a lot of the people locally that were responding, were saying, where is this? What time's it at? And I was doing it on my own. I was like, I'm going to set up something. Why not? That one woman showed me how to do this to help my mental health. All I need to do is just put it out there, put a location, a time, get people down, show them how to do it. And that's it, because it really is a gift once somebody shows you how to do it.
Because that's the thing as well, I mean, advice for someone who's maybe reluctant to go see swimming based solely on the fact that it looks freezing.
Oh, it is.
I mean, that's the main thing that I get. Because I see that everyone huddled under the dry robes and everything, and that bit looks nice. You know, afterwards, that bit looks
with
good.
A cup of tea on the beach and you have your dry robe on.
You know, it's like there's a fire going, there's a barbecue happening or something. But it's the coldness of it.
But scientifically, again, what drew me to it was the evidence in terms of the increase in serotonin and dopamine, which is natural happy hormones, that what you get prescribed by a doctor in terms of an antidepressant, that's what an antidepressant does. It's a chemical. Again, I look at it in a way that it's science. There's nothing to be ashamed about it. So I needed a boost. I couldn't get it from my medication because I was at the max dosage. So I started to get it from the ocean. And I have reduced my antidepressants by half since I started.
Wow. So it's almost a year now you've been doing that. So if it was last December.
Yeah.
So, and you're still, I mean, how often would you go out?
As much as I can. Like, again, when it gets busy, I can't do it, you know, during the week, but I try to get out at least once at the weekend or twice. We're a community, we're called Waves for Mental Health. There are people that meet every day. Since starting in December, we've hundreds of members. We have a running club. We do yoga on the beach. We've got a walking club. We've got online communities on WhatsApp for like weight loss. We've started a skaters group. We've got a crocheting group. And it essentially is just a big community of people who were looking for something but weren't sure what it was, and then found cold water dipping, and then found that they wanted to start practicing self-care more. And that's what it's turned into, and it's been the proudest thing I've ever done in my life. I know there's this, and there's TikTok, and there's all of that, but setting up Waves, that community, has been the best thing I've ever done in my life. The proudest achievement.
Which is very interesting, because you go all the way back to when we were chatting there, your first TikToks. For you, it was the fact that you were making people happy with them. That was where your rush came from, and you're still doing that. I know,
it's amazing. And it is, my rewards are intrinsic. You know, they're not monetary, they're not driven by ego. It really is just finding joy and making other people happier.
Did you ever think your life would take that turn as well, where it's one thing to be working on these sorts of things, but then something else to also put yourself out there to not only lay yourself bare in terms of what you've gone through, but also try and help others through it?
I think everything that I've done on TikTok from the start gave me that confidence to be myself, and that's all I've been. Whenever I've talked about my mental health, and again, people have accepted that. So that's done huge things for me. That is the reason why I can come on and talk about taking medication and not feel any shame or stigma. That's the reason I can come on and talk about losing my mind, feeling like I'm a bad parent or a bad wife. It's that reason. It's because this is it, in black and white. This is me. I don't want to be anything else. And by being that way, and so many people opening up and telling you that they feel the same, like that is a gift. But it can also be a bad thing, because I'm an empath. And I start feeling really bad if I can't help people. So when everybody was messaging in saying, you know, I'd love to do this, if it was anybody local, I was like, right, I'm going to set up Waves and you can do it. But anybody outside, locally, they're like, I wish we had this. I feel that in my heart, and I'd be like, oh, I can't do anything to help them. So it's like, I can make them smile. I can do something.
Why do you think it is still so hard to talk about our mental health like that? Because, especially in this city as well, there's a lot of conversations happening in Derry, and I don't know if we've ever even I mean, I work in the media. I don't know if we've ever been able to quite scratch the surface as to what's going on there.
Again, it goes back to generational trauma and the troubles, in my opinion, and obviously poverty is a big issue, and even more so now. Funding for mental health here is absolutely appalling. It's appalling. It genuinely makes me sick to my stomach. In terms of stigma, I just think that's something that is definitely reducing because more and more people are talking about it. Here, mental health issues always are talked about when there's bad news.
Yeah.
We should be talking about mental health more when there's good news. When people are coming through different scenarios and challenges. We're talking about it more now in school. Like my kids do yoga. They have quiet time in school. They do meditation and mindfulness.
Is that where it starts with education, with children, you know, to sort of show you how to...
And that's why I feel like the next generation is definitely, there's going to be less of a stigma, and that is how it's going in the right direction. We didn't do that. We didn't do yoga at school or meditation or mindfulness. You know, there was stigma there if anybody talked about mental health or somebody being mentally unwell. You know, there was connotations of, oh, they're a crazy person.
Yeah.
That's what we were brought up to think. Our parents were brought up to think that. You know, it was a no-no subject. It was a taboo. You did not talk about people who were mentally unwell. The more people that talk about having a mental illness and making it just as likeable to having a physical illness, again, people for diabetes take insulin. If you have anxiety or depression, what's wrong with taking an antidepressant? Again, it's chemical, it's science.
Yeah, you took part in that Post Your Pill as well, where it's just all those little things to sort of say, look, this is okay, you know, it's not an issue, and and what about now as well for you, because you do the sea swimming, you know, you said you still take some medication. I mean, how do you? I don't want to say how do you feel now, but it's more talk about your processes of how you cope and how you deal with things and compartmentalize.
So there's never no kind of silver bullet for, well, I've found personally for anxiety or depression, it can hit you out of the blue, unfortunately, but I've just become more in sync and aligned with what triggers me and how I know I'm going to go another way. It's like getting too busy and not looking after myself, not eating properly, not going cold water swimming, not going to the gym. If I don't do those things, I feel myself dip. If I spend too much time on social media and I'm going through an insecure patch and I start comparing myself to other people, again, that's a trigger.
Do you still do that?
Oh, I still do that. I'm doing it in a different way now. I'm doing it with like content creators and authors
book reviews and
in
things,
my scenario and book reviews and stuff. Before I was doing it about, you know, my life. Now it's more in a professional capacity, which I think is good in a way because it keeps you competitive. It keeps you wanting to do more. I'm not doing it personally. Don't get me wrong. I'll still get caught up about my weight and be looking at people online and be like, oh my God, why can't I look like it? But then I'll snap myself out of it. It's more about, again, going back and bringing it back to basics of what can you control, what can you not control. This second book coming out, I can feel anxious and on edge and not sleep, worrying about how it's going to do. But at the end of the day, if I just come back to it and say to myself, can I control that? I can't.
No.
I
That's
can't
an interesting way
control
of parking the worry because, so like the 11th of November, so the 10th of November, you will start to stress a little bit, presumably, about that, but you're able to kind of say, look.
I have to because what else can I do? I can spend time worrying about it, making myself sick, being anxious. What is the point in doing that? That is wasted time. That is easier said than done. I understand that for anybody that suffers with anxiety, but it is something I'm just trying to condition myself with, and you can tell why I read self-help books.
I was about to say you read a lot of them.
In terms of trying to rewire your mind and rewire your anxious mind.
Would you ever put all this down in a self-help book of your own?
No, because I think everybody's so individual in their physical and their mental makeup. Everybody's different. What works for me might necessarily work for you. And for so many other people, we've all got different minds. Like a lot of people, when I started talking about medication, they're like, what medication are you on? And I'm like, there's no point in asking me that because your makeup, your DNA, everything is completely different to mine. You can't, again, there's no silver bullet. This is just how I manage. And I have no qualifications. So I always add that as a caveat.
Does this work for me? May not
This
necessarily.
works for me. This is just what works for me. It mightn't necessarily work for you. So I think anybody that does self-help books, they need to have some qualifications, but about a life story and about a kind of truth to how they've overcome it. And it's not just coming from a clinical perspective. Like if I was a doctor and I've had my life, I'd write a book tomorrow, but I haven't. I just go by what works for me, what's been tried and tested over and over again.
Well, comedy self-help. Would you like to write a third one?
Oh, yes.
You think you'd fancy a third one?
I've already started.
Oh, have you?
Well, no, not like I've already started in terms of where the story picks up. So the first novel follows Tara Gallagher and her husband and 3 kids and takes us through a wee midlife crisis that she has. And again, a lot of this is true to me.
I was going to ask how much of you is in there.
Loads. There's loads. Like I am Tara. Tara's me, but Tara's also a lot of women in their mid-30s to 40s. She's also women who aren't mothers. She's every woman that goes through this stage in life where you start going, oh my God, am I getting old? Am I really sad? And like I'm sitting and watching Gogglebox and my fluffy dress. I used to be a good crack.
You stand up and you make a groan, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the knee cracks. No, there's like I'm not even going to some of it, but it was very relatable. And then the fiction side of it was just kind of expanding that arc, but setting the scene for more character development in the next book, because Tara has anxiety and takes medication, and that was very important for me to add into the book. Like she's really, really highly strung, and looking at her kind of character development, you'd be like, oh my God, why is she so highly strung? But I love the way in the next book we're able to go back to her childhood and explore why she is the way she is. But she's pregnant, so she can't take her medication for anxiety. So things are a bit off in this book, but again, it's been so nice to normalise it and bring mental health into comedy fiction.
But is that
not make a big deal about it or make it a sad story.
Is that also hard though? Because when you're putting yourself in that book, you're really having to look at yourself when you and then write that, because you're almost.
But that's nice.
Is that nice to do? Yeah,
it's like it's a fiction novel. But it's actually been able to relate it to my thoughts and feelings, and there's nothing easier to write about than your own thoughts and feelings.
When you finished them as well, would you have just read through the thing in its entirety? I want to get a sense of that day.
Well, I have to do the Audible.
Oh, are you voicing it yourself?
So I've done the Audible for this, and I've done the
okay.
Audible for the second one as well. So that's kind of my time to really enjoy it and act it out and go back into TikTok mode and do the characters, because I wanted the audiobook to feel like an extended kind of TikTok. It wasn't just narrating it and being a kind of monotone or nice relaxed voice. Like it is acting out every single character, and it's exhausting.
How long does that take?
4 days.
4 days.
And that's 10 hours. 10 hours of audiobook, but they're brilliant. Like they keep you right, like every hour on hour. It's like up, outside, get some fresh air, get a cup of tea. It's great because they can tell when the energy's dipping.
Right, so then they can then.
And they're like, we can feel it going down, you know, the energy's dropping. And again, because the book is so full on of calamity and Tara is so tumultuous, she needs energy. The kids need energy, her mother needs energy. So that's the fun part, getting to the audiobook. But even when you're doing the audiobook, there's times you'll say something or say a phrase or something that the kid says, and straight away I'm like, oh, that could have been better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you, yeah.
I'm automatically going back going, I wish I'd have changed this, or I wish I'd have changed that. So I'm always looking to improve everything I do.
Books as well, we were talking about earlier how I read a lot of fiction to try and give a good escapism. And also just, it's something we enjoy. A lot of self-help books. So much of that goes back to when you're a kid. Would you read a lot when you were a child as well?
Like
I mean, that's where we really get our love. Enid Blyton was your
That's where I escaped Enid Blyton. My mother introduced me to Enid Blyton, and I was such a big reader when I was younger. I think that sets your foundations for your creativity growing up. Because for me then, I loved creative writing in school. absolutely loved it. So that fiction and being able to write fiction and think about fiction has always been there, but I do believe that it's come from reading as a child, which is why I try and encourage my kids to read more.
So Secret 7 or Famous 5? That's the question now.
Famous 5.
Famous 5, well, you said that very quickly. I wasn't even hesitating on. Which one had the dog?
Famous 5?
Famous 5 was a...
Aye.
Yeah, we're getting nods, so yeah, Famous 5 had the dog. Yeah, so that was... You see, because when I was a child, like I read a lot of Roald Dahl. I loved
Roald Dahl
him.
was brilliant.
It's like you still see the illustrations, and you do sort of fall in love with it. And I think we all have those memories as well of, like, you know, and I don't know, would you read to your kids when they were very small as well? And that's really fosters that love for books and for fiction.
It does, and I try and keep that as a strict routine for my youngest child, Jimmy, as people know him. In terms of keeping that alive and keeping those books, because it's different for them these days in the way of technology. You know, they want to, like my teenager, and it's normal, goes to bed with her phone in her hand, you know, like, and we never did that. And it's sad, but it is just the way times are going, unfortunately.
Do you think the love for books is still out there in kids? Do you think because you talked about how we do a lot of mental health now in school, well, more than we would have done before. Do you think we remember that the books are still there with our kids, that it's not just what's on your phone, on your tablet?
I think for some kids they are. I think it depends on their parents and what they're kind of brought up with, definitely. I think there are still loads of kids who love books and fell in love with books. Like, look at Harry Potter, look at J.K. Rowling done for books. You know, I don't know when we'll ever have anything in that level that got kids into actually reading books. But hopefully, it comes back to the curriculum. If they are teaching about mental health, that they are pushing books as a holistic way to escape and get away from screen time. You never know.
We've about 10 minutes left. I think we'll leave 5 minutes maybe at the end for anyone who wants to ask a question themselves. Just raise your hand. I'll point you out. But as I pointed out, I'm going to be a father very soon. This is my first. It would be remiss of me not to ask Mammy Banter for some advice.
No, but are you asking for Daddy's advice or Mommy's advice?
I would never dream to ask for Mommy's advice. I think she'll be absolutely wonderful at it. I don't know what's the first bit of advice you'd give somebody who's maybe about to enter parenthood.
Sleep.
Sleep now.
Everybody says that. Sleep. Just honestly, it's tough, but they're the biggest blessing, and they grow up so fast. Just enjoy every single minute of it when they're wee and they can't talk back and they can't walk. They can't throw things at you.
Because I get an awful lot of any time I mention, I might go and play a round of golf. It's like, there'll be none of that. There'll be none of that when the baby gets
Life
here.
changes. It really, really does. And you make these sacrifices. But anybody that says it's not worth it is lying. Like, they are amazing. Absolutely amazing. And again, the humour that comes with them, the madness that comes with them. Like, there's a lot of kind of tearing your hair out moments, but in terms of, I've created this being, you know, they're mine. Just enjoy every minute, but don't sweat the small stuff in terms of, you'll work it out yourselves in terms of who's getting out for golf, who's getting out with the gears, but you need that.
I have to clarify, that's colleagues saying there'll be none of that. That's not my wife saying you can't go and play golf. That's just to be sure. But another thing I found as well, though, one of the first things I looked at before baby clothes, before anything like that, was what kids' books I might want to go and get and look at.
There's some brilliant kids' books.
They are great.
They are,
why can't all books have pictures?
I know. Look at my son's book. Like, I go out looking for books that, you know, there's one called Super Poo.
Right.
And he thinks this is the funniest thing ever. But again, it's just because it says poo, and it is a poo with a cape, you know, who'd have thought it? But he just loves it. And he's like, he asks me to tell him the story of Super Poo. It's just incredibly silly, but it's just, again, it's escapism and it's funny. And it's something that he wants to do that's not on a screen.
I saw as well, do you get now Back to the Future is in a kid's book form?
No way.
I saw that in Waterstones a couple of weeks ago.
Actually.
I think I photographed it, sent it to my sister and says, look, if you want to buy like an auntie present or anything like this.
That's so cool.
Please have this. I'm waiting for Jurassic Park as well, potentially to come out there. But books as well, like feeding into that idea of this love of literature, of fiction, and that's what you do now. So if I can look at who you are now compared to who you were at the start of this conversation we had.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you assess I suppose, 2-year journey you've been on? It's been a relatively short time, but so much has happened for you.
It feels like I blinked. But again, it doesn't feel real. Like even a few people says to me today, like people be like, how does it feel to be a celebrity? I'm like, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a Mammy from Derry. I am. Like
but you should surely get recognised around here, especially.
And people
nice?
Be lovely. Aye, people be lovely. They really do. It would be different if people were like not being nice. You're shite. I got to say shite again. No, people are lovely, and it's really, really nice. But I think if it starts feeling real, maybe that's when I'll lose a bit of love for it. Maybe, I don't know. I like how I'm just kind of just enjoying it and staying grounded and keeping that work ethic of just continuing on and having that goal. Because I think I went through a stage of just doing it and going, I don't know why I'm doing this, until I wrote this book.
So that was the point once.
That was the point where I was like, I want to do this on a larger scale, and I want to have it visualized. I want it on TV. I want it in cinemas. I want it everywhere.
Is it ever hard? Is it ever, because this is what you do for a living. This is your job. We all go into work at times think, no, not today. Can't deal with it. I'm not having it. I mean, you must get that, despite the fact that your job looks so fun as well at the same time.
Yeah. No. Again, mainly it's the monetary kind of reliability of a salary or security. If you're off sick, having some sick pay, those benefits, a pension, I don't have that. I don't have that, and that sometimes can catch you. But again, it's going back to, can I control that? No, I can't control that. Until it comes a stage that I can control it, if I'm like, you need to go back to work, I'll do that. But I just want to continue on, just seeing how many more people I can make laugh, and if I can do it on a larger scale. It's hard in the sense that you don't know what tomorrow's bringing, but it's exciting in a way too.
You don't know what tomorrow's bringing. Tell us what's in the pipeline, though. You did mention, obviously, you've got a pilot written.
Yes.
You want to bring this effectively to the screen.
Yes.
You started working on a third book. I'm missing anything out here.
No,
You'll continue your TikToks as well.
That's it. And again, none of that is set in stone, which for me, it's not knowing what's coming next. But all I'm going to continue to do is work hard and promote the life and make everybody sick of me saying the shite before Christmas. No, it's okay. And continue to make videos and make people laugh. So that is the pipeline for me.
Yeah. Well, I think we can maybe take a couple of questions if anyone's interested. You won't want to ask anything of me, and my wife's here. It's yes.
I want to know what's next for Jimmy and Jimmy.
Can't tell you. You're just going to have to stay tuned to find out.
Wait, somebody at the back?
Yeah. Do you ever think of writing children's book yourself?
Yes. I've already written a few and pushed them to my publishers. They're like, you're releasing this book. We'll park that. We'll come back to it next year. But I've already written a couple already, and Jimmy's the main character, so we'll see.
Can you give us a rough idea of what's in maybe one of them?
It's essentially what I was talking to you about, my son likes Super Poo. Mm-hmm. It's essentially the adventures of Jimmy getting up to all sorts of no good, kids love Jimmy, and it scares me sometimes because there's some videos that kids shouldn't be watching. Mm-hmm. There are loads that they should be watching, but kids resonate with them so much. So that's been a wee bit of market research for me. And again, in books, you can visualize it more and you can focus more on Jimmy and you can make it informative and you can teach children so much more through a character that they relate to, which is a child with this stupid hat and floppy ears. And now there's a girl, so you can hit both boys and girls there. So I've written a couple of those already, but again, HarperCollins are like, whoa.
Yes, that's
Calm down.
Anybody else? Yeah.
As a woman on the internet, do you get any social media abuse, and how do you cope with it?
I do. Not so much kind of comments online, because I don't think people openly like to do that as much anymore. More through messages, which again, it's tough sometimes. It's never about my physical appearance, even if it was, like if somebody was like, oh, state of this, or what are you wearing, or you've got 3 chins. I'm all like, good luck, you know, all the best. It's people that kind of anonymously want to troll you and try and upset you or make something up about you. Like, I put up a video one time about a girl wearing, my daughter wearing fake tan. And there was a line in it to say, Orange Lives Matter. It was the Mammy taking the hand out of the daughter. And this woman messaged me, like, this big long message about how my video was sectarian. And how she was unfollowing me, and she was telling all her friends to unfollow me, and she can't believe how sectarian I am. And I was like, whoa. Which is the thing about comedy and anything that you put online, you can't control people's perspectives. Comedy's subjective. Everything you put online is subjective. Everything I write is subjective and interpreted differently. So again, it's going back to, can I control that? No, I can't. So.
They ever put you off? No?
No, it just makes me want to succeed more.
Do you ever respond to trolls as well?
No.
You did mention you have TikTok.
I did at the start.
But, you know, like on TikTok you get comments. Would you have responded to them beforehand?
I did at the start, but a lot of the times it turns out it's children on profiles where they don't have their profile pictures on, so it's just like, no, I'm not even going to go there. So.
Well, I think, any more questions? Yeah.
If you were starting all over again, starting your career all over again, do you wish you could go back and do this, or, you know, start this instead of going into the corporate world, or?
No, I think my life and my experience has led me to this point, because when I was coming out of university, I knew I had to go and get a graduate job. And when I had my kids and I wanted to progress more in my career, that's just where I was in my life. You know, I was ignorant in a way and not realising what my priorities should have been. I thought that's where I belonged and that's where I should have been. And it's only now coming out of that, and anything I've gone through in my life, it's made me who I am today. And I think that all is meant to happen for a reason. So I don't wish I had done it when I was younger, because I probably would have been shite crack. Shite.
I should have kept a tally chart of the number of shites we had today. It's at least 12, I think, maybe we'll go with. And one last chance, I suppose, to say shite. Just talk us through your new book, when it's out, when you can get it, because it would be remiss of us not to mention that.
So The Shite Before Christmas, The Shite Before Christmas is out on the 11th of November. It's picking up from the first book. You don't necessarily need to have read Secret Life of an Uncool Mum, but it is picking up for where that it helps. Yeah. It's picking up where that's left off, and it the timeline is a week before Christmas, and everything that could go wrong is going wrong. But there's a lot of surprises. There's a few Easter eggs in there. And I'm just so excited again. I feel like it's hard to kind of promote anything that costs money these days. So anybody that does even download it on Kindle or audiobook, I am so appreciative, because I know money's tight. Mm-hmm. Money is so, so tight. So I'm appreciative of anybody that is support me by buying the book. Like, I'm blown away.
Yes, that's a good point as well about the cost of living with books, but it almost shows the value of places like this, of a library, where you can come in and you have this wealth of entertainment just here waiting for you for free, effectively.
And this is a wee holistic hub in terms of, you know, if you are looking for self-help books and you don't only buy ones off Amazon, come in here.
Before we wrap up, favourite book? But I ask you, your favourite kids book and then favourite book as an adult. This isn't me writing it down. I don't know why I did that.
Favourite kids book, The Railway Children.
Oh, very nice.
Favourite adult book. I love the Aisling books. I'm going to say the Harry Potter books.
There's no shame in saying the Harry Potter
No,
books.
I have
none.
reread those books so many times. That's like somebody asking your favourite song. And now on the way home now I'll be all...
I should have said
that.
You'll see one side.
Yeah.
But look, thank you so much. I'll just pop in mine as well. Mine is my favourite book as a kid was Danny the Champion of the World by Roald Dahl.
Oh,
that is my
brilliant.
absolute favourite. Actually, looking back on it, I don't know why I'm bringing this up now, but I mentioned this in my eulogy for my dad, because it's a book that's just wonderful about loving your dad so much that everything's so good, and in a way you do this, you tap into that parental vibe of the chaos and the fun, the enjoyment that is being a parent. Favourite adult book is Mort by Terry Pratchett. I'll just put that in.
But you'll read that now to your wee one.
Yeah, can't wait.
Isn't that brilliant?
And Serena, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this morning.
you.
Thank you so much, and best of luck. Really good luck with it.
Thank you so much. Thanks.